It was a dark October night in 2021. Mark was spending the weekend at his aunt's estate in rural Massachusetts. Aunt Helen had asked him to help renovate the guest house, which had fallen into disrepair after years of neglect. After a long day of labor, as Mark and Helen were finishing the job, the sun was beginning to set. "Why don't you spend the night at the guest house?" Helen asked. Mark agreed, anticipating a little adventure by staying the night in the remote guest house. As Mark approached the guest house, he was struck by how creepy it looked. He climbed the creaky steps and entered through the crooked front door, turning on his flashlight. The only room inside was sparse but clean, thanks to Helen having prepared it earlier. A makeshift bed of blankets stood in the corner. Mark changed into his sleeping clothes and settled down on the creaky futon. As total darkness fell, he became uneasy. Any harmless sound, whether it was the crackling of an old tree or the hooting of an owl in the distance, seemed amplified in the solitary silence of the night. Scrolling through social media, Mark noticed that the signal on his phone had become intermittent, as if something was interfering with reception. Suddenly, the screen flickered and went black. He tapped the screen and pressed the buttons, but the phone didn't turn on. "Great, just what I need," he muttered to himself in the dark. Fumbling around in the pitch darkness, Mark fumbled for a flashlight and turned it on, immediately feeling relief in the small beam of light it provided. After a while, Mark's eyelids grew heavy. He turned off the flashlight to save batteries, and the room was once again plunged into impenetrable blackness. As he dozed off, a sudden noise jolted him awake. It was footsteps slowly ascending the creaky porch steps outside. Mark's heart raced and he held his breath, straining to hear in the darkness. Footsteps stopped on the other side of the thin wooden door. Terrified, Mark fumbled for a flashlight and shone it toward the door, his hands shaking uncontrollably. In the small circle of light, he saw the handle begin to turn slowly from the outside. With a screech, the rusty deadbolt pulled back and the door creaked open. Mark shrieked and turned off the flashlight, plunging back into blind darkness. In the pale moonlight streaming through the open door, Mark could make out a dark figure slowly entering the house. It hesitated in the doorway, as if sensing his presence in the darkness, but not seeing him. Mark stopped breathing. The figure began to move toward him at an agonizingly slow pace, arms outstretched as if groping all around it. Fueled by adrenaline and terror, Mark suddenly rushed toward the door, squeezing past the figure in the darkness. He leaped out onto the creaking porch, but lost his footing on the crumbling steps and tumbled down the slope toward the edge of the woods. Branches and thorns tore at Mark's clothes and skin as he rolled uncontrollably. Eventually, he crashed into a large oak tree at the foot, and the impact knocked the breath out of him. Taking deep breaths to fill his lungs with air, Mark rose to his feet and blindly darted into the dark forest. After what seemed like hours of panicked running through the dark wilderness, the adrenaline in Mark's blood began to recede, and the pain from his many cuts and bruises became palpable. His lungs burned from overexertion, and his chest ached where he had hit the tree. Mark searched through his pockets for his cell phone to no avail. His soaked shirt clung heavily to his wounds. He felt like someone was watching him. Just when his mood had soured further and his legs were shaking from fatigue, he saw a glimmer of light ahead. Mark rushed toward it with renewed vigor and emerged into a familiar clearing, panicking as he made his way back to the guest house. Gathering the last of his strength, he jogged the remaining distance and collapsed onto the creaky porch. "Help, please," he wheezed in a broken whisper. A silhouetted figure appeared in the lamplight. It was Aunt Helen, whose eyes widened with concern at the sight of Mark in such a state. "What's the matter?" she exclaimed, rushing to his aid. Mark recounted what had happened, not omitting any of the gruesome details as she treated his many wounds. Helen listened attentively and apologized. "I shouldn't have left you here alone at night. This place has a dark history that I didn't want to tell you about." Helen assured him that he was safe now and could rest. As his eyelids closed for the first time that night, the last thing he heard was her whisper, "You're very lucky to have escaped the wandering woman."